With me now is Congressman Adam Schiff of California, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and an impeachment manager in the first Trump impeachment. Congressman Schiff, thank you so much for being with us on the ReidOut this evening. I'm going to start, I'm going to go Tim Russert on you here. I'm going to play some of your own words back to you from the first impeachment and get your comments on the other side.
Donald Trump chose Rudy Giuliani over his own intelligence agencies. He chose Rudy Giuliani over his own FBI director. He chose Rudy Giuliani over his own national security advisors. When all of them were telling him this Ukraine 2016 stuff is kooky, crazy Russian propaganda, he chose not to believe them. He chose to believe Rudy Giuliani. That makes him dangerous.
So, Congressman Schiff, I have to ask you, and I'm being very serious about this because this is a danger to the United States and these people are still walking around free. Do you feel vindicated? Do you feel that what you said and predicted has now sort of finally come to fruition? How do you feel about these new reports and this recent raid?
Well, to be honest, I feel sad because we had an opportunity in that first impeachment to remove the danger. And it didn't take any great prescience to see if he wasn't removed when the evidence was so overwhelming that he would go and try to cheat in the next election, which is exactly what he did. But with respect to Rudy Giuliani, we, as a result of our investigation, we learned that Giuliani was working with these corrupt Ukrainians in an effort to smear Joe Biden, that he was advancing this Kremlin narrative that it wasn't the Russians that interfered in our election in 2016. It was Ukraine, and Ukraine was interfering to help Hillary Clinton. That was a Russian Kremlin narrative, and Giuliani was working to push it out. I think the issue may now be in terms of his legal exposure. He needed to get rid of Marie Yovanovitch, our ambassador, because she was fighting corruption in Ukraine. And he considered her an obstacle to getting these corrupt investigations announced against the Bidens. But he also, appears to have had business interests in Ukraine. And there were corrupt Ukrainian people like this former Attorney General Lutsenko, who also wanted the ambassador gone because he thought it would help him remain in power. And if Giuliani was doing any of this on behalf of these corrupt Ukrainian officials or being compensated for it and not reporting it, then he would have some serious legal problems.
So, Congressman, I thought about this. This is, it's a raid on Giuliani's house, and this just feels different. If you're talking about this could be a counterintelligence investigation instead of just obstruction of justice. This has moved from being Law and Order to perhaps the Americans on FX. Like, how is that investigation going to play out differently if this does sort of transform into something where we're looking at someone who may have been under foreign influence?
Well, first of all, I was so glad to hear President Biden say what he did, that he's hands off on all this stuff. He should be hands off on it. It's great to have a president who is hands off in terms of the Justice Department. It's great to have an attorney general who is not bringing cases or announcing investigations for political reasons or intervening in sentencings like Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr did with Roger Stone, or to make the Mike Flynn case go away. It's good to have an independent Justice Department, again, doing independent work. In terms of the investigation involving Giuliani, I have to think that it is predominantly a criminal investigation as to whether he violated laws, whether he was working for a foreign power and not reporting it. But there will certainly be interest from a counterintelligence point of view in whatever is learned in that investigation, so that we can protect ourselves if there are still other people involved in his conduct that may be compromised by the Russians.
So you mentioned William Barr, and so we had in the previous administration basically an attorney general who set things up for the president and seemed to operate as his personal lawyer. I want you to listen to this sound here, because it seems like William Barr wasn't just sort of working as Trump's personal lawyer, but he was working as a campaign manager as well.
We had established an intake process in the field so that any information coming in about Ukraine could be carefully scrutinized by the department. That is true for all information that comes to the department relating to the Ukraine, including anything Mr. Giuliani might provide.
So, Congressman, after hearing that from William Barr, I mean, if the information from the Ukraine was primarily being used for campaign purposes, does this mean that William Barr is also somebody who should eventually be under investigation because he would have been part of the smear campaign?
Well, look, I don't know whether he should be under investigation, but it's certainly clear, even if you look at the call record, that infamous July 25th call between Donald Trump and the president of Ukraine, Trump tells President Zelensky over and over, talk to Rudy Giuliani and talk to Bill Barr. Both of them, he implicates both of them. And when the whistleblower filed a complaint, and that complaint was withheld from Congress, it was withheld from Congress at the direction of the Justice Department, Bill Barr's Justice Department. And of course, we would soon find out why. So there's no question that Bill Barr abused his office and that department, and in the most destructive ways. And I'll give you one final example. You might recall Bill Barr, in the run-up to the election, was saying that China was the biggest threat to our elections. And when he was asked, I think, by Wolf Blitzer, on what basis do you make that claim? He says, well, I've seen the intelligence. Well, the intelligence community released a public report just about a month and a half ago that said, no, China wasn't involved the way Russia was. Russia was the primary threat, showing once again that Bill Barr was being deceptive with the American people to help the Trump campaign.
This is not going to be the end of this. Thank you, Congressman Schiff, not just for this interview, for what you did for this country last year. Thank you so very much.